Well, hey, everybody, we are here at Outdoorama. It is Big Buck Night. Jenny, every year, I mean, I say this almost every year, but these deer are huge.
It's ridiculous, Jimmy. They really are. They get bigger every year. We've got a buck from the UP this year. We've got a female hunter here this year. All kinds of fun stuff.
It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of big deer, a lot of big stories. Make sure you stay tuned. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan out of doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's destination since 1988, featuring varieties of homemade sausage, jerky, brats, and gourmet entrees. Holiday gift boxes can be assembled in-store or online. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By Grilla Grills of Holland, Michigan, makers of wood pellet, charcoal grills, and professional pellet smokers. Grilla Grills are designed for ease of use to improve your grilling and smoking skills. More information at grillagrills.com. By AnglerQuest Pontoons, a mid-Michigan company building boats for fishermen by fishermen. AnglerQuest pontoons are designed for comfort and functionality. On the web at anglerquestpontoons.com.
Soaking in the rich tradition of Michigan hunting for over 30 years, Vanguard is proud to sponsor our friends at Michigan Out of Doors TV.
All right, our first lucky hunter is KATRINA GULDI, Lapeer County, 11-point. This was shot with a 20-gauge shotgun. It grossed 148. This is a monster buck. KATRINA, you shoot a lot of deer like this?
No, this is my second deer. My first one was a 10-point.
Holy cow! And where do you Lapeer County? Where was that again?
Around North Branch area.
Okay, don't give us any more info than that. Tell us the story. What happened with this buck?
We didn't get out there till a little later. It's the evening of opening day of gun season because he tagged out with an 8, had to help him. And I told him, I'm going to get a bigger buck than you. He didn't believe me at the time. So we get out there. I seen does all day. And then he comes running out of the swamp and chasing after a doe. And I had to try to make him stop. I grunted a few times, and he ended up stopping. I shoot him. He's about 90, 95 yards away, I think. And I was using open sights.
Dang, really? Open sights?
Yep. And so I shoot him, and I drop him because I ended up hitting him in the spine. And then to see him trying to get up, and then I got some buck fever at that point, and kind of shot a couple more times, and yeah, got it done.
So, yes, you did. So when you first saw him, how long did you see him before you actually were able to get a shot?
It happened just like that.
Okay, so that was probably good?
Yep, it was really good. I didn't get to see how big he was.
Yeah, so did you call somebody first, or did you just walk over there? What happened then?
I called my dad right away.
Did you know there was a buck this big in there?
Not really. My brother scouts a lot, and we knew there was a big buck in there, but we've never seen it on camera or anything.
Wow, what a buck. 100-yard shot with open sights. Let's give KATRINA a round of applause for a great hunt. Nice job.
Our next successful hunter is Ryan Bartholomew. Shot this 12-point in Livingston County with a crossbow on November 1st, 149 6/8 gross score. So Ryan, tell us what happened out there.
Well, it was that time of year to be in the woods, and I was talking to a guy at work and said, I'm going to kill something tonight. So I decided that with the new purchase of a black rack and extinguisher deer call, I went out for the first time with it, and was pretty successful, I'd say. It was only my second time touching the horns together, and he crept in right behind me. Probably within a minute, he crossed right underneath me, and I shot him at like 8 to 10 yards. I knew I really got him good as soon as I hit him. He was spilling a lot of blood, and he pretty much went toppled end over end within like 50 yards, and I watched him die right there.
You mentioned to me off stage that it was kind of a special day for you too, that you shot the buck.
My dad passed almost 5 years to the date of the time that I took this deer, and it was actually the last time I had shot my last buck too. So it all came full circle, and it was meant to be that night. So.
Yep, so he was out there with you for sure. All right, congratulations, Ryan. Let's give him a round of applause. Beautiful buck.
Okay, our next hunter is Jeff Crump. This was shot in SANILAC County. It is a monster 8-point with some of the biggest brow tines you're going to see. Shot with a 450 Bushmaster, and this scored 150 and 6/8 inches. Jeff, this thing is huge. Tell me the story. What happened on that? And when was it? What time of year?
It was opening day of firearm season, November 15th, and it was at 11:35-ish in the morning. Basically, he followed a 3-point in about a minute and a half after the 3-point came in. He just moseyed right into the carrots and put his head down. I had a scope on him for about 80 yards, following him straight in on me, and just watched him. And when he bit down to get the carrots, and then he lifted his head up and he turned quarter to me. It was like, really? So I just let one rip.
Now, what kind of hunt property do you have where a monster buck comes in eating off the magical carrots you got back there?
You know, I've been asked that. I don't think they were magical at all, but I was as surprised as everybody else. And the buck fever part didn't hit until after. And when he ran away, he went about 70, 80 yards, and then I got scared. You know, because he went back in the woods. I'm like, uh-oh, what did I do? Yeah. But
were you sure that you hit him, or you weren't sure?
The way he kicked and bucked, yeah, I was pretty positive. But it still makes you nervous. You know, something big like this, we don't see these often.
Have you shot one this big on that property before?
Never. Never this big. We normally get normal 8 points, you know, I don't know, 100-inch ones, 90-inch ones, but this guy was just amazing.
So what was it like? How did you get him back to camp, and was everybody there? Tell me about that.
Well, when I first found him, it took me about 10 minutes to find him, and then I called my wife right away, let her know that I shot the big one, because I had seen him 2 weeks prior to this one time, and then I had to call my son and my nephew to come help get him out of the woods with me. And they're like, you didn't shoot him. I'm like, get out here at the four-wheeler and give me my zip tie. I got him.
Okay, next up we have 16-year-old Victor Baylor. He was 15 when he shot this buck on November 19th. This buck is a 12-point, Ingham County, 151 inches. Shot him with a shotgun. Tell us what happened out there. You had some patience, hey?
Yeah. I watched him for about 2 hours before I shot. And he was with 15 other deer, and he fought another littler buck. About 15 minutes before I shot, he came across into the grass that I was in, and there was a mowed lane, and he had just gotten to the edge of the mowed lane when I shot, and he turned and ran straight towards me and turned back into the mowed lane 40 yards in front of me and tipped right over.
Tell us what happened after. Did you have any idea that a buck like this out there? It sounds like you had quite a few deer on your land.
We'd been watching him for about 3 years, but had only seen him 4 or 5 times in real life.
Awesome. Well, that is so cool. 16 years old, Victor Baylor.
Okay, our next hunter, Dan RZEPPA, scored 158 inches on this buck. Shot with a shotgun again in Sanilac County. Dan, tell me, and you have a little history with this buck.
Yes, I do. I missed him 3 years ago. I bought the property 3 years ago, and my first time hunting shotgun rifle season opening morning. Actually, it was noon. And I looked up about 40 yards out, and he was standing there looking at me, and I was like, oh, my God. And
now, how big was he back then?
He was probably 135, 140. He was pretty big, and a little more mass now, I would say. But he started walking in, and buck fever took over, and I rushed the shot, and I missed him clean.
With a gun or bow?
With a shotgun. Okay. Yeah, and didn't sleep for a while. Well, fast forward to opening day, shotgun season this year is about 10:50 in the morning, and I was just thinking to myself, boy, it's kind of slow. I didn't even see a deer. And I have a firing lane about 100 yards out where I can see, and I saw some movement to the left of it, and it was this big guy. You know, he's going at a pretty good pace. Not running, but pretty good jog. And I had to react real quick, and I was sitting in my ladder stand, and I went to shoulder my gun, and the sling got stuck on a shooting rail. So I'm trying to pull the gun up. I'm like, what's going on? And looked down, unhooked it, got it back up, and he was already through my shooting lane. I'm like, oh, great, what am I gonna do? And I looked to the right, and I seen an opening about 18 inches between two trees, and I got my scope in the opening, and I start taking up the trigger. When he stepped in, I see the nose, neck, and boom, the gun went off, a surprise shot. I felt really good about the trigger pull. So I start looking, and I didn't see any blood at first, and I went a little farther, and I found some white fur, and then by that time, everybody came over. And my buddy's like, man, you got white fur, you gut shot that thing. And I'm like, no, don't tell me that, but I had a lot of blood. I went out to the side, and my buddy Mike and my sister followed him up the trail, and he went about 40 yards, and my buddy Mike's like, I think I see more there. I go, buddy, don't say you think. This thing's a monster. Don't mess with me. All my friends were there. We're just like, oh, my God. We sat there for about 10 minutes looking at that deer, and we were just so blown away. It was awesome to experience it with my family.
We're here now with John Penishero. I think I got that right. John shot this bruiser in Ingham County. Now, it officially scored 11 points, but John says where he comes from, we count this kicker that comes off of that brow tine right there, too.
There are very many deer that are worth not counting every point.
That's right. So the official score is 159 2/8 with a shotgun. Tell us what happened. What day were you out there when you saw him?
Second day of the season, about 4 o'clock. I had a couple does come through, so I grabbed the gun and put it up. I waited, it seemed like forever. Nothing came through, so I put the gun back down. I turned around, and there he is right in front of me. And he almost walked away without me shooting. I didn't get the gun there in time, so I had to shoot between a couple little trees. So after, I seen him drop, so I got out of the blind. Our blind is elevated. Well, the stairway is kind of shaky that we built. So I got down there, and I went to where I thought he was, and he wasn't there. So then I almost start crying, you know. I says, man. But he was on the other side of the deadfall. I found him, and he was right there. He dropped right in his tracks. So then I got my knife out, and I was shaking so much because I've never got nothing this big before. I says, I better wait a minute before I gut him. I might cut myself. So I called the guy that has the place, and first thing he says is, you got to mount it. You got to mount it. I said, I'm not mounting it. I ain't spending all that money. It'll go in the living room, then the garage, in the basement. So we took it to Mason, the VFW. And lo and behold, I won the buck contest. I won a free shoulder mount. So I'm mounting it anyway.
Okay, this is Michelle Malensky. These 2 bucks were shot on opening day of the archery season?
Opening day.
Opening day of the archery season. This is a 10-point. You can't quite see it, but it's got a lot of funky little stuff going on. Shot with a crossbow. The big one grossed 162, but this is a magical day in the woods. Let's hear what happened on October the 1st.
Well, I went out for opening morning, and I was sitting in a box blind, and I knew that deer was on the property, and I knew that he was my target deer, so he was the first deer that come out, and I shot him. My husband went with me in the box blind, sat with me in the morning. Well, after I shot him, I was not determined if I was going to go out in the evening, because I thought, man, I don't want to tag out in one day, but gee.
Nuts.
Yeah, so I was still determining if I was going to go or not, so we pulled the chips at my blind, at my other stand on the other side of the property, and we'd seen a couple of really nice bucks. I was like, oh man, they were too nice to pass up. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go out. I was sitting out there in the stand, and I had a doe, a fawn, and a little nubbin come out, and they were in there for a good half an hour. I thought, oh man, there's got to be something else coming out, and I looked straight away at me, and here he comes. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. And I knew he would turn, and eventually he turned.
So how far was he standing there?
About 30 yards.
Okay, so pretty close.
Yeah, he was pretty close, about 30 yards out. And I took the shot, and I ended up dropping him right there. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't realize how big he was.
Now, not having ever shot a buck that size, when he's standing there at 30 yards, are you looking at his rack? You're trying to not look at his rack?
I'm really not trying to look at his rack. Okay. I was pretty much on his body, knowing, okay, I know where I'm gonna shoot him. He's just got to turn, and then he was big.
Okay, the bucks are getting bigger and bigger. This is John Vassallo, Livingston County 11-point, another opening day buck. Shot him with a muzzleloader, and this buck scored 164 4/8. John, let's hear the story.
Well, woke up opening day, and it was pouring rain pretty hard, and So I decided to midday check my camera cards, and I pulled up, checked one card, nothing going on, moved up on top of this hill, which overlooks a lot of the property, and drove up there and was listening to Eric Church, hanging out for a minute, and some deer came out about 250 yards, 3 does, and then this guy came out, and I think they liked Eric Church because they hung out there for a while, and then I had to make a decision to pull that card from the other camera, sit and watch deer. I pulled that camera card, and they took off back into the thickets, and so I hauled butt home and checked the card. Saw this guy right on the card. I was like, holy mackerel, and I got back, suited up, got in a ghillie suit with a little hunter's orange, and sat on a hillside, waited for him to come out. Saw about 10 doe, and he came out about 400 yards, and I was counting the seconds. He finally got within range, which was coincidental 164, and I shot him, and a big cloud of smoke, couldn't see anything, and he was still standing. And he was just standing, and meandered about 30 yards till he went over a field edge. Couldn't see him, and I thought for sure I missed him because he showed no signs of being wounded, and went to the field edge. It's pouring rain, couldn't track or anything. And I looked over the edge, and I saw him laying there, and I was like, holy mackerel. I shot him, and so I texted my buddies, and we got him back, and yeah, great deer.
Okay, our next hunter is Will Abels. This was shot in Lenewee County, a monster 14-point shot with a compound bow on Halloween night. Grossed 173 inches and 4/8, and we got some sheds here. So Will, tell us a story about these horns, and how old is this deer?
Well, they aged him at 6.5. Wow. Yeah, he's starting to lose hair on the side and everything. Well, in July, a buddy of mine sent me a picture of him holding these sheds, and he said, hey, this could be your next wall mounter, joking around. Well, I didn't have much time to hunt this year. It was my 4th time out all year, and I actually rushed out because it was Halloween after work. I told my wife, hey, I'm going out. She goes, well, I'll take the kids Halloween trick-or-treating and stuff. And when I get out there, getting in my stand, 20 minutes later, a doe and a little one was right behind me. So I thought, I'd give her a bleat, and I didn't think I'd see anything since I rushed out. As soon as I bleated, I heard something stand up. He was bedded up about 75 yards to the left of me.
And was in there the whole time you got in there?
Yep. And he didn't, it was a 20-minute hunt. He come in, I knew he was either A, going to go in the field behind me, or cut and come right in front of me. And as soon as I saw him turn, I didn't even look at him again. I just grabbed my bow, got ready, got set up, and he gave me a 20-yard shot. And I dropped him. He ran about 15 yards. So.
Wow, 15 yards. So you knew there was a big one. Well, you hoped he was still in there. Right. Had you seen him at all during the season before?
First time on my property I've ever seen this deer.
Wow, what a great-looking buck. And so now, going forward, do you think there's any more on that property like this?
I killed a 163-inch 11-point last year and a 140-inch 8-point, and then open today a shotgun. I killed 140.
You know, if you have any need of some hunters, we'll talk afterwards. Let's give him a round of applause. Will shot a great buck. Nice job.
This amazing buck is from the UP, shot by Phil Long over in Ontonagon County. 17 scoreable points with his trusty 45-70, the gross score of 175. Now, your camp is in Ontonagon County, but you're from downstate, you say?
Yes, Brownstown.
Okay, so have you guys taken many deer like this off of the land up there?
Not like this we haven't. A couple of nice ones, but nothing like this.
Just amazing. So tell us how it all unfolded out there.
Oh, November 16th was the end of the day, and I had a couple does out there, and then this guy came in. And, well, I was told I wouldn't tell the real story, but I'm going to tell it. So he came in, and I put the crosshairs on him, squeezed the trigger, and the gun went click. So the does were looking at me, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I pulled the hammer back on it again and squeezed the trigger and clicked. So that time he left. So I grabbed my phone and texted my father-in-law and said, you got a big buck coming your way, because I just screwed up. And about that.
Wait, so what was happening with the gun? Did you have a round in it?
I had a round in it, but I forgot about the safety on it. So, yeah, he circled and he came back. And about that time, I figured out what was going on. And Yeah, I put the crosshairs on him again, and then the gun went boom. So he ran about 60, 70 yards, and he dropped. So
So did you take him right into downtown Ontonagon then and show him off?
we took him into Bruce's Crossing, and we hung him on a scale, and that pretty much cleared the bar up there. And they came out and was looking at him, and so.
Just amazing. Congratulations, Phil Long, a beautiful UP buck.
Thank you.
Okay, this next hunter is Danny Robitaille, and I used to ram around with his dad about 7 or 8 years ago, and he never took me to any hunting spots like where this comes from. But anyways, this was shot in Ingham County. It is a beautiful 12-point, big drop tine, shot with a compound bow, grossed 179 and 3/8. Whew. Okay, Danny, let's hear the story. When was this taken?
It was October 1st night. I shot a doe about 10 minutes before I shot him. I was sitting with my buddy, Austin, and I was about to get down because I had work the next day, and I didn't want to deal with him late, or deal with her late. Yeah. So I was about to climb down, and then my buddy goes, hold on, more doe's coming in. And he was going to shoot doe, so we stayed, and all of a sudden he comes out, and he stood at 8 yards. She stood about like 6, both my arrows sticking in the ground.
So, okay, so let me back up. So you got a buddy in the stand with you, and he's going to shoot a doe.
Yep.
Now, did you have the green light that you get to shoot all the bucks, or how does that work?
Well, it wasn't my property, it was my other buddy's. Okay. And he has property, well, the buddy that was hunting with me has property in Springport, okay. And he was just kind of sitting with me to...
Oh, nice, okay. And so how long did you see the deer come in? Like, how long was the whole hunt there?
With him, yeah. It was about 5 minutes flat.
Did you get some buck fever when he was coming in?
Oh, yeah. My arrow was shaking about 6 inches each way.
So how did you calm yourself down and be able to make the shot?
I kind of just picked my spot where I seen him, where he was going to go, drew back, and once I drew back, I was solid.
Nice. And then so what did you do after that? Because this is such a big buck, and I know you got a lot of family and friends in that area. Did you run them around and show them off?
Yeah. I called the family member, my other buddy, and he drove right out in the field. We were taking pictures. We were going crazy. Went over to his house, put on a scale, had a whole bunch of other friends come over and look at it.
Well, it is a great buck, and I'm glad you got to show him around and show up the old man, too. Nice job, young fella. Let's give Danny a round of applause. Ingham County Monster Buck.
Whew. Okay, I think we're ready. And this is the last, I should say, the last story of the night because we have 2 bucks, Andy Harpster and his daughter Harmony. So Andy shot both of these. We've got the bow kill October 19th, Hillsdale County, 187 and 3/8. Look at that bruiser. And then the other buck was shot less than a month later on November 20th with a shotgun, 151 and 1/8. Holy smokes.
Lucky man, lucky year.
So tell us kind of okay, let's start with the bow kill, this big beast here.
He showed up October 19th on my place. I was my first sit of the year, and surprisingly, for some weird reason, at 4:30, he walks out in front of me. I got him to within 60 yards that night, and he wouldn't come any closer to the grunt calls. Saw him get nervous and take off. Thought I'd never see him again. I checked my camera the next day. He was back on my place at 7:30 at night. When I saw that, I was supposed to be at this girl's cross-country meet, and I had to call her. I've known this buck for 4 years, and every year he shows up for a couple days, and I figured this year I'm going to hunt the next couple of days. That night I saw nothing, and then the next day at 4 o'clock he showed up again, and I was lucky enough to connect. Yeah.
How far of a shot was that with your bow?
47 yards. Yeah. I grunted at him to try to get him closer, and he stared my location for, it felt like eternity, 3-4 minutes. And at that point, I did have a steady wind in my face. And I think he was waiting to hear or see another deer. I saw him get nervous and start flicking his tails, and he was headed out of there. I picked one opening, ranged it at 47 yards. I stopped him when he got there. I made the shot. He was quicker than my arrow. He ducked and spun, and I was lucky enough that my arrow connected lengthwise in his neck and broke his neck. And he dropped in his tracks. I don't think I'll shoot that far again. I wasn't expecting the speed of the animal, but November 16th, I hunted dark to dark opening day and opening Saturday, and was getting ready to pack it up and go bow hunt Ohio, and checked my trail camera, and this guy showed up. So I dedicated the next 2 days, and 2 days later I ran into him with my shotgun.
Special thanks to everyone who attended Big Buck Night East at Outdoorama, and make sure to tune in next week for Big Buck Night West.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Greenstone Farm Credit Services, making recreational land ownership possible across Michigan and northeast Wisconsin. Begin your land financing journey at one of Greenstone's 37 locations or visit greenstonefcs.com. Michigan's hunters and anglers are essential partners to the health of the state's wildlife and habitats. The Michigan Wildlife Council is dedicated to ensuring our hunting and fishing heritage and Michigan's natural resources are preserved for future generations. By Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises of Munising, exploring Lake Superior's Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. With its sandstone cliffs, caves, waterfalls, and lighthouses, Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises on the web at picturedrocks.com. Closed captioning provided by Marvo Mineral, makers of Lucky Buck, deer management products including minerals to supplement deer diets year-round to improve health and antler growth.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man.